What's going on, YouTube? Joshua Wade here, and I want to welcome you to another podcast, a Friday podcast, which is a little unusual for me. I usually try to do these on Wednesdays, even though I haven't been really posting many podcasts, and for that I apologize. I have been busy with my day-to-day life and other projects, music and video related. Started a new YouTube channel that's more video oriented, so I will leave a link in the description if you guys are interested in that type of thing, video production with Unreal Engine and other things for music videos. I even have a smartphone series coming out to where I'll just be using my iPhone or any other smartphone to make music videos and stuff like that. So shameless plug over. This is going to be one of the last, not the last, but one of the last for a while podcasts of me talking about Cubase. And the reason I felt the need to make another video was I put out a video just a few days ago here on my channel, my main channel, of me producing a hip-hop beat with Cubase. And the reason I did that was I really did not want to give up on Cubase without giving it like 100% of me really trying to do a full production from beginning to export, right? And that's what I did on that song. And you can check it out here on my YouTube channel. I'll leave links in the description to that, also to that instrumental, that video. And after using it and really, again, starting from beginning to export to master, mix, and everything, I have kind of realized a few things about Cubase 12 Pro, because that's the version that I was using. It's a super capable DAW. It's got more features than most other DAWs have, and I can say that with complete confidence. It's a badass DAW. The only fault that I had with it when I was using it, and someone had said this in the comment on one of my previous Cubase videos, it seems like for every one click in any other DAW, I have to click 3 or 4 times in Cubase to do the same thing. I'm not a big fan of the way that they have their plugins set up to get to their plugin, not to get to the plugins on the right menu, because that's very similar in a lot of DAWs, but the way that once your plugin, your effects chain is set up, how they side chain it, and I'm just not a fan of that. It seemed like, and I don't know why, but that just stuck with me when someone said it's 3 clicks inside of Cubase to every one for every other DAW. That really stuck with me, and it's very true for a lot of things. Now, mind you, when I said earlier, Cubase has a lot of features that other DAWs just don't have. And I mean stock, by the way. So, don't mention like, oh, well, you can get this plugin or you can get that plugin. I mean, out of the box, whenever you install Cubase, you have a version of Vocaline, you have a version of Melodyne, you have pretty much like a limited version of Scalar too. Because you can play any note and it'll be in key, and it's got the scale assistant to help you with that also, which snaps in real time as you're playing it. It will snap you to the key that you want to be in. It's got the chord track is amazing. It's better than anyone else's chord track in my opinion, hands down. The arranger track, once you get used to it, it's a learning curve compared to any other arranger track, any other DAW that has one. Ableton doesn't even have one, so for Ableton users, you guys probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but it's hands down the best arranger track I've ever seen in any other DAW. It's amazing, and what else? It's got chord pads, so it's got also a circle of fifths. You can set your chord pads to the scale you want. It's really easy using it for the short amount of time that I have to realize why so many composers use it. So many people who really, I'm not saying you need to know a lot of music theory because it's got a lot of tools to help you out with that, but I understand why the Hans Zimmers of the world use it and why they have like a group of composers that deal with a lot of orchestra stuff that use Cubase, because it really does have a lot of very cool features. But again, for me, it comes back to workflow. It's just not there for me. I'm not saying I need the fastest DAW in the world. Like, I keep going back to this also, Ableton Live. I have been using Ableton Live off and on for about 1.5 years, more so on the past 5 months or so, and that workflow is super fast. But again, Ableton doesn't do certain things that other DAWs do. Okay, like Studio One, this is about Cubase, I promise, but Studio One has ARA. Ableton Live does not have any type of ARA, which that really drives me crazy because I use Melodyne a lot. And I apologize for the light glare in my glasses. I just set up the camera real quick to get these thoughts out. Cubase has ARA integration. They have really good ARA integration. If you want to use Melodyne and you don't want to use their Vari pitch that they have, because Melodyne is a little bit better. Vari pitch is kind of like a limited version of Melodyne. Not saying you can't do a lot of cool things with it. You can, but I've been using Melodyne for years and years and years, so I'm just used to that. But anyway, Cubase, if you guys are thinking about it, I say definitely download the trial. I'm not going to be buying it. I worked out a way to put different email addresses in. I'm not saying do this because I ran out of my time trial on Cubase the first time and I didn't even open it once. So pro tip, if you guys are thinking about downloading the 60-day trial, it's 60 at the time of recording this. It starts as soon as you download just the trial. It does not even install it, but as soon as you sign up for the trial, it starts. So make sure you plan it ahead and start using it right away because your trial will count down even if you don't have the software installed. I learned that the hard way, but I was able to go in and set up another email address. Again, I'm not saying do this and download it and actually try it for the 30 or 60 days that they give me. And I'm not at the end of it. I'm coming to the end of my second one. And honestly, I have already uninstalled Cubase. It does some things that are really cool, but it kind of reminds me of Adobe in a way. It doesn't crash or anything like that. Like once I got the little bugs and the quirks worked out, it was actually pretty stable for me. I didn't have any issues with the plugins and stuff like that I had previously. Come to find out it was a hard drive issue and this and that with one of my external hard drives. So I got it to run pretty flawlessly, but it's like Adobe in a sense that they have put so many features into this thing. Amazing features, but unless you know it's there and you know how to get to it, they do not make it obvious. Cubase had the biggest learning curve of any DAW that I've tried in the past couple of years. Hands down, it had the biggest learning curve. Having said that, it's a super, super professional DAW. It's probably one of the most professional as far as features go that I have played with. I learned on Pro Tools. I cut my teeth on Pro Tools. I've been using Studio One constantly for 7 years, and then off and on now for the past 2 years. And then I used Logic, and now I'm using Ableton Live mostly, and I'm back on Studio One. I wanted to try Cubase to kind of make sure I wasn't missing out on anything. And although I am missing out on a few cool features that Cubase has, I don't feel like I'm missing out on enough to switch to Cubase and try to get used to that workflow. So I hope this makes sense. I know this is just a video podcast, and me kind of rambling on a little bit, but for anyone who is thinking about getting Cubase, if you're on Studio One, that is the closest comparison to Cubase that I can think of. Because Pro Tools I don't even put on the radar because Studio One is miles ahead of Pro Tools, and Cubase is ahead of Studio One when it comes to features, okay? When it comes to workflow, I think Studio One is better just because it's just so much easier to use, it's so much quicker. And I know ease of use is not a big thing for a lot of you, like professional people that are really high up in the game or whatever, but for me, it's definitely a workflow speed thing. If I have Ableton Live and Studio One, I'm good to go. That's really, those are two DAWs that I comfortably believe I can get anything done with for me and my workflow. Your mileage may vary. Everybody's different. I would love to have just one DAW to rule them all, but there's not one. And if you've watched my channel for a little bit or listened to any of my podcasts, I've tried every DAW that is on the radar right now. Every DAW that's like, it has really good support and it's compatible with Mac and PC. Obviously other than Logic Pro, which is why I actually got away from Logic Pro because I really want a DAW that is cross-platform. So this was just my kind of rant. I'm not really going to make any more videos on Cubase because I've had a couple people comment and say they're thinking about buying it or they have bought it. What do I really think about Cubase? I really think it's an awesome DAW if you feel like taking the time to learn it. But I think if you're super efficient with Studio One or Ableton or something like that, I think you should just stick with one of those DAWs because there's nothing that Cubase did for me that I couldn't already do with a third-party plugin, other than the ARA thing inside of Ableton. Ableton just doesn't have ARA, but Studio One does. So, you know, the vary pitch and stuff like that, I'm able to do with Melodyne, which I prefer to use anyway inside of Studio One. You got to find your workflow and what fits your vibe and what you're doing. None of the DAWs that I tested, I will say this on video, right? And I'm going to post this to YouTube. None of the DAWs that I have made a video about on my channel were terrible, and every one of them is more than capable of producing professional quality music all the way like to platinum charts, right? I thoroughly believe that. But that's kind of my rant on it. What am I at? I'm at 13 minutes. That's my rant for this podcast. So I will not be making any Cubase videos in the near future unless Cubase 13 Pro comes out and it's got some just like holy shit features and I really got to check it out. Then you guys might see me make another video about it. But until that day comes, you're not going to see any more Cubase stuff from me. And do I recommend it after me using it? I don't from my workflow, but again, your mileage may vary. So hopefully you guys got some type of entertainment or information out of this. And if you have any questions or comments, start a conversation in the comments down below. These podcasts have been really good for, you know, conversations. I see a lot of people talking and keeping it civil, which is really cool. Greatly appreciated, by the way. And let's talk about different DAWs and stuff, different things. What do you like about Cubase? What do you like about Studio One? What do you like about Ableton compared to all of those ones? You know, just again depends. But hopefully, I'm going to post this. Not hopefully, I am going to post this unedited. I might cut out some gaps and stuff, but I'm going to post this really quickly. And hopefully, you guys have a great rest of the Friday if you did watch this on a Friday, and a great weekend and a great rest of the year if you don't see it over the weekend. I will catch you guys in the next video. Have a good one.